to Marshmallow Adventures Podcast.
Today, via Zoom, we have comedian, screenwriter, and actor Grant Lyon.
Woo!
He has a brand new album out called Scheduled Fun Time, available everywhere, and so many other credits that we'll get to today. Welcome, Grant Lyon.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You are welcome.
So where are you Zooming from?
I am in Los Angeles, California. Nice and sunny and warm.
Yeah.
Is that where you live?
Oh, yes. I know how to make everybody hate me right when I get join a podcast. Hey, I'm wearing
from Northern
shorts and a
California.
t-shirt. Yeah.
We both have California experience. So Chris is from Vallejo. I used to live in Nevada. So
Okay.
yeah,
Nice.
so more northern than you.
Yeah. I went to college in the Bay Area and then lived up there for a long time afterwards.
Nice.
So I know both those spots.
Yeah. So are you from LA originally?
Suburbs, but yes.
Okay.
I grew up I grew up in the suburbs of the suburbs. I grew up in like the suburbs of Pasadena.
Oh, do you know that?
Okay. I know Pasadena. I don't know the suburbs of Pasadena.
Yeah. As Pasadena being a suburb of Los Angeles.
Yeah. So twice removed from Los Angeles.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So just real quick to touch on your new album. When did that come out?
It came out right near the start of the pandemic.
Wow.
Actually.
Good timing or bad timing?
Really, I think good timing for people listening to the album, bad timing for the opportunity to celebrate the album. That was one of the hardest things, was having to like cancel all my album release parties and that sort of stuff.
Bummer.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the few times in the last many years I actually cried because it wasn't, those album release parties. It's a celebration of, it wasn't just the like celebrating the album. It was celebrating all of the sacrifices that went into having to do to get that album, the years of staying in bad hotel rooms or not being there for some girlfriend's, party because I was on the road.
All the things you missed.
Yeah, exactly. All of that was the justification
and then
of all of that.
You don't even get to celebrate properly.
Yeah.
Like this quiet online celebration.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So you filmed it in Atlanta?
Yeah.
At a comedy fest.
Yep. I like Atlanta. It's got a really good comedy scene and a cool hip crowd and stuff. So
was it your fans or was it,
it was both. It was both, my fans and just people that were out for a comedy club.
Yeah. Awesome. We're going to go help a friend on Monday who's filming locally. He's like, I need people. We're like, we're your people.
Yeah, that's great.
We can make noise.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's cool. So is that your first special or?
So I recorded an album early on in my comedy career, which, I look back on it and I'm like, like 15 minutes of this is good.
Yeah.
But part of it was like, I wanted something to like be able to give out to people after a show and things like that. So this was my first album on a major label. That first album was like self-released, self-produced sort of thing.
And it's 800-pound gorilla? Is that? Oh, okay.
But so the answer is no, technically it's not my first album, but yes, I tell people that's my first album.
Your first professionally produced one.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, have you put it on YouTube?
It's not on YouTube, no, but it's all on, it's everywhere that you can listen to music and stuff like that.
Cool.
So Spotify, Apple Music.
Yeah, we were checking out some of it earlier on Spotify.
Oh, awesome.
Which is cool. Yeah, you can, because each clip or each story has a name and you can just go to it. It's awesome. Really cool.
For
Yeah,
sure.
I
Thank you.
definitely enjoyed your comparison of marriage to magic.
That's one of my favorite ones on there.
Yeah. Yeah, but we still have to listen to the whole thing. We haven't gotten to all of it yet. But
Well, thanks for checking it out. I appreciate
Of
that.
course.
You're welcome. Yeah, we love comedy. We're huge fans.
Yes.
That's why we love talking to comedians all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, one of the main reasons we have you on is because you have a show coming up at the Lounge at the End of the Universe, and we're their official podcast.
Nice.
Give us the date on that. That's coming up next week, right?
When does this podcast come out?
We are going to get
As
it out
soon as humanly possible.
before the
right.
show.
So it is either next weekend or this weekend, depending on when you're listening to this.
But what's the date?
It's October 15th and 16th.
Okay, great.
I'll be there both nights.
Awesome.
And how do you know Jen? I'm assuming you have a Jen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we met long ago in 2008. There was a comedy competition that took place all over the state of Colorado. It was called the Colorado Mile High Comedy Competition. And there's a decently famous comedy competition called the San Francisco International Comedy Competition. And that one's been going since like the 70s. And,
cool.
there's a who's who of sort of comedians from the 70s and the 80s that did the San Francisco comedy competition. And so this was the guy who founded the San Francisco International Comedy Competition helped start this Colorado one. And the idea was to do a Colorado version of that sort of thing. So, it was over multiple weeks. There was a preliminary round, and then they picked 5 finalists out of that preliminary round. And every night was in a different city all over Colorado and stuff. And so Jen and I were in that competition together, and we both made the finals of that competition together. So we spent it was like 2.5 weeks or something like that together every day doing shows together.
Oh, cool.
So,
she was there for comedy, not auditionery or whatever.
Nope. Yep.
Burlesque.
She was there just doing stand-up comedy.
Oh,
nice. So we were among the 5 finalists there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. You said it was 2008?
2008, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how'd this show come about then?
Well, so, there used to be a different comedy club in Boise, Liquid Laughs. Yeah. And I don't know how long Jen's been doing the Lounge, but now with Liquid Laughs closing during the pandemic, the Lounge is your main comedy spot in the Boise area. So I came to Liquid Laughs multiple times, and in fact, it was the last club I did before the pandemic. I think I did it the last weekend of February 2020. And so I love the Boise scene. I love the outdoors. I love breweries. I love walking around.
We got all of your stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Outdoors. Speaking of that, we were recently on a solo backpacking trip.
That alerted us because we tried one together and it was great. Yeah, 2. It was great until we had to go to sleep and we were terrified.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Things to eat you in the night.
Was it just you were terrified of like the sounds and the
It's definitely probably worse in our heads than it actually was.
I think it was just
outside.
deer, but a lot of things brushing up against our little 2-person tent. And when we saw you went solo, we were like, dang. I don't think I could do that.
Because we've talked about that before. Like, could I do a solo backpacking trip? I don't think so.
How do you get out of your head? Or maybe you're just good in your head. But in my head, it's scary.
I'm a weird person in that I am not afraid of anything. I literally cannot tell you one thing that I'm like afraid of.
Wow.
Physically.
Speaking of that,
there are certainly emotional things I'm afraid of. Yeah.
So not spiders,
like I'm afraid of ending up like my father or things like that. The emotional stuff. But the physical stuff, I just don't. None of that stuff like bothers. I'm not any fear that people are like, oh, I'm afraid of the ocean, I'm afraid of sharks, I'm afraid of heights, I'm afraid of all this stuff. Like, I just don't.
Wow.
No, I just don't ever feel any of that stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, but it makes it nice,
Yeah, it makes
like
it nice.
I'm a very adventurous person because of that.
Of course,
I think.
yeah. So will you go on another solo backpack?
For sure. And I'd like to do a longer one. That was just a 2-day one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to go for 3 or 4 days solo. I don't think I'll do longer than like 3 or 4 days. My limit is I don't really want to have to like have like stop points where I can like re-up my food and sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, if it's a 4-day thing, I can bring all the food that I need in my pack.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to deal with like having to like get refueled and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you find that you brought too much stuff? Because we were carrying like 50 pounds each on our back. And we're like, that is way too much.
Like one night.
Yeah, totally. No, I mean, I definitely brought a few too many things, but I think the more and more you go backpacking, the more you start paring it down and going, what do I actually need? But then also you start adding a little bit of stuff too. Like I used to not bring I have this little backpacking chair, which kind of, folds down very small and adds a couple of pounds, but it's really only like 2 pounds. But when I first started backpacking, I didn't bring that. I was like, I don't need that. Now I'm like, no, I want a place to stay.
Yeah, we have those as well.
Yeah, just to get
it's worth it.
Is amazing.
Yeah, and I've watched different backpacking stuff on YouTube, and there's one. It's like, I don't need a chair. I'll just find a rock, but it's not as comfortable as a little chair. Totally. Some of the minimalist backpackers.
We're not. We brought cards. We had stuff to do.
Yeah.
But way too much food. That was something I noticed, that we couldn't figure out how much food to bring, and we didn't end up.
You end up eating. I think whenever I'm backpacking, I end up eating less.
That's
than I do normally. But I drink more water, so you got to make space for that water.
Yes. Yeah.
So how many trips have you done, backpacking trips?
Well, I grew up going to like an adventure sports camp, essentially, every summer. So in Colorado. So I started like pretty young doing, at the camp, we were all the stuff we were doing was like whitewater rafting, mountain biking, rock climbing, spelunking, all that. Like it was all sort of outdoor adventure sort of stuff. And then every year, and I started going there when I was like 12, 13.
Were you a bad kid? Did you get like shipped there, or was this
no? I wanted to go.
This sounds fun.
Yeah, it was great. It was like the highlight of my year, and then along with that, we would do a 3-day backpacking trip. So the first times I ever were doing backpacking was like with a group where it was structured, and your counselors could teach you what to do and how to pack and all that sort of stuff. And so, but those were 3-day trips where we were peaking the 14,000 footers in Colorado. There's a lot of 14,000 foot peaks. So I've been to I've got my name in the top of like 6 of them, maybe.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So all when I was like a teenager.
Cool.
You haven't been back.
Yeah, no, I haven't been back to those, but I have been backpacking other places like in my 20s and 30s and stuff. So Zion National Park in Utah is amazing. Backpacking the Narrows there, and backpacking up around Tahoe, and I mean, there's.
Have you done some along the Pacific Crest Trail?
I've been hiking along the Pacific Crest Trail because there are places where it meets other stuff. Like in Yosemite and things like that. So I've been along small portions of the Pacific Crest Trail, but I've never like actually done the Pacific Crest Trail. And I don't know that I have a huge desire. Like I might do like a week on the trail, right, or something like that. But I don't have a desire to do the whole thing.
Do the 6 to 9 months and start in Mexico and
no, thank you.
In Canada.
I would only do it for the story.
Actually, the camp director from the camp that I went to in Colorado growing up took his 2 daughters out of school, and they did the whole Pacific Crest Trail for like a year. And at the time, I mean, this is 20 years ago or whatever, but at the time they were the youngest 2 people who had done the whole trail. They took it like 9 months, and they were like 12 and 13 or something like that.
So cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's a cool experience and also grueling. Yes, but
for sure.
Yeah. Nope. We're 2 days on the backpacking trail.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think my ideal is 2 nights, 3 days.
Yeah.
That to me feels perfect, where I'm like, all right, it was enough to like get out there and escape and recharge and stuff,
I can go right back.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
Getting back on to the topic of you having no fear. I was watching a YouTube clip earlier where this wrestler was at your show and came up on stage and actually kneed you. And yes, you didn't back down.
You did not push him or punch him.
Can you tell us about that experience?
Oh, totally. But you can also see that I didn't flinch like at all.
I saw that. Yeah, I was like,
you stood your ground, but I was like, how did he deal?
That guy was way bigger than me.
Yeah.
So that's like, that is a thing about me where I'm like, that's gonna get me into trouble sometimes because of that like no fear thing. I don't care how big anybody is or whatever. I've been in like multiple fights as an adult, and that's not me bragging. You should not. It's not. I'm not trying to seek out fights. I can say I've never started a fight, but I also will not back down if somebody else pushes me into it.
Yeah.
Because you just stood there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was like, and you were like,
and really continued to talk shit to him.
Oh, for sure. If you notice,
where shouldn't somebody be dragging him off? You're the
So that was the second show, late night at a comedy club that no longer exists in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Ooh.
And the crowd was smaller, and so half of the staff went home, including like their bouncer and stuff. They were like, yeah. So like the only people on staff was like one server, the bartender, and the sound guy.
Wow.
So there was like nobody left. You know, there were probably only 40 or 50 people in the audience for that show.
Yeah.
And that guy, you know, is used to being the center of attention.
Yeah.
He is actually a semi-professional wrestler or whatever. And so, you know, if you see that video, like he would stand up and flex to the rest of the audience.
I saw that. Yeah.
Just, you know, it gets tiresome after a while when you're like, I don't mind like a couple of interruptions. I'm good enough that I can deal with it. I can roll with it. It's just when it never stops. That's when you get like frustrated where, and, you know, we have, as comedians, we have a lot of tools in our tool belt for how to deal with that stuff. And people love asking like, well, how do you deal with hecklers? And the answer is, well, you don't really ever deal with the same heckler twice in the same way because different people require different things. You know, if it's somebody that just keeps being like, "Ooh, yeah," well, if you like tell them to shut up, then you look like a jerk because they're interrupting, but they're doing it in a positive way. So you can't make fun of that person and like rip them up because then that makes the audience turn against you. So like that one, you got to like be playful, but still kind of tell them to be quiet in like a silly, playful way. Whereas like when it's somebody who's drunk, who's yelling out stuff, then you can like lay into them because everybody is usually already annoyed at that person.
Yeah. We want them to shut up as well.
Yeah. So that's what I mean, where it's like everybody, like every situation is different. So in this one, like I tried everything I could try with this guy to like get him to be quiet. Like I made fun of him. I asked him nicely. I like teased him, right? I did all of these different things. And it was like, the way it kept working was I would talk to their table, then he would pay attention, and that would last for 3 or 4 minutes. And then they would start talking at full volume amongst themselves again. And I would have to go back and say something again to their table to like refocus them. It would last for 3 or 4 minutes. Then they would start talking again. And it was just like, I'm on stage for 45 minutes and the time you see there is at like 40 minutes where I just was like, shut up. Like, I'm done. I'm done being like nice to you or whatever. Like, shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah.
And he took umbrage with that. And,
I mean, really like assaulted you. Pretty much.
Yeah. He put his body on your body.
Yeah. Well, and if you go back and you watch the video, you'll see I don't say anything for like 10 seconds after he knees me. And I walked over and I picked up my beer bottle because I was like,
oh, it's going now.
I thought that. Hit him with the beer bottle. I hope he does.
Like, because that's the thing. It's like, I know I'm not a big guy. If I am in a fight with that guy, I have to be crazy, right? Like I have to do, like if it was just us throwing punches, that guy's going to murder me.
Yeah.
He was way bigger than me. But, if I jump from the stage and smash a beer bottle over his head, well, I might just win that fight,
I mean, I always heard get naked and then just jump on him.
Yeah.
That's the best fighting tactic.
Yeah, totally. But like, that was me. That I didn't say anything for like 10 seconds because I was like literally running through the scenarios where it was like, okay, either I like go nuts right now and just start going crazy because nobody else has my back here and I can tell that. So am I going to have to fight like 3 guys right now?
Yeah.
Or I try to like joke my way out of this, even though I'm like super mad right now.
Yeah.
So were the other guys at the table also wrestlers as well?
Yeah, they were.
So,
it was like,
it
was like 3. Yeah, it was like 3 semi-professional wrestlers and their wives at the table.
Well, I don't even know if size matters because I don't know if you've seen recently when Big J was pulled off a stool somewhere in New York. And he's a very large.
He's a big dude. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, why are you? I don't get why people need to mess with you guys. I don't get what the.
Oh man, and I would say that wrestler coming on a stage and kneeing me is certainly top 10 craziest thing that's ever happened to me on stage. Yeah. But I would not pick that as the craziest.
Oh,
I would not pick that as the number one. Yeah.
Is it so? What people say?
It's just the one that was caught on camera.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True.
Okay. So, all right. Tell us the craziest if you can recall it.
Oh boy, I could tell you a story probably of like the craziest show. Mm-hmm. So I have to preface it by saying about a month before I did this show, I feel like I have to tell you a couple of different ones. Okay. I don't know which one is so real quick. One time when I was in like Medford, Oregon, I used to have a joke many, many years ago about how there are people in the world that deny the Holocaust ever happened. And how crazy is that people can try to like deny that. And this guy in German started going 9, which is no. And I was like, surely you get the irony of, and the guy was like 85 years old. And I was like, he was like, in a German accent, he was like, you weren't there. You can't talk about this. And I was like, I'm not saying this joke is not about the Holocaust. This is about people nowadays in modern times. And he was like real upset. And I was like, I'm going to tell this joke and you can either leave or not leave. And he was like, I'm leaving. And he like, literally stood up and put on his vest and put on his coat and put on his scarf and put on his hat, all like huffing and puffing the whole way. And instead of walking out, the exit was like the back of the club. He walked by and took a swing at me while I was on stage.
Oh my God.
Like an 85-year-old guy. And, I easily like stepped back and nothing happened. And then he walked out. And then I was like, oh, dude, that guy probably was like a Hitler Youth or something. Right? Like there's all those stories about those types of people going to like rural Oregon or things like that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wild.
Like,
you never know who's going to be in your audience.
Yeah. So I would say probably the worst show I ever did, the craziest show I ever did was probably something around like, this was like 2009. Mm-hmm. And the audience, it's always late show Saturday. The second show on a Saturday is always the rowdy. They're already drunk when they come in, like that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was the middle act. So, there's an opener, a middle act, and then a headliner. Mm-hmm. And this was a time in my career where I was the middle act. And the opener was a very nice person, but was very new to comedy and didn't really know how to handle it. And just from the minute the show started, everybody's yelling out stuff. And it's not only like one thing, it's just everybody's being rowdy. And he was kind of deer in headlights a bit. Yeah. And so in that situation, I feel like either I come up and I say something right away, or I try to like completely ignore it and not acknowledge it at all. And then they'll just like wear themselves out.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I come up and I try to do it in a playful way. And I like, there's like a table of 4 ladies right up front, 4 middle-aged ladies. And I'm like, watch out, ladies. I'm going to have to like, I'm going to pile drive your table if you keep doing, but like laughing through it and just being silly or whatever. And they were laughing and the audience was laughing. And I feel like the first like 5-6 minutes of my set went pretty well. And I'm doing like 30 minutes on stage. And then just like little fires start popping up everywhere, where you're like, okay, I gotta deal with these people. Okay, I did with that. Here's another joke. Oh, now there's a fire over here. I gotta deal with these people. And then probably like, I don't know, 10, 12 minutes into my set, the club seats a couple in the front row that is determined to finish whatever conversation they were having before they came in, like at full volume.
Yeah.
And I just ignored it for like a minute or 2 minutes. It was like, okay, they just sat down, like they'll
simmer down,
figure it out. Yeah. And they just didn't. And I like went to him and I was like, hey, there's a show going on right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure you noticed.
I can hear everything you're saying. That's what I said. I can hear everything you're saying. And and the guy in most of those situations, people are like, oh my God, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. Like I just wasn't aware of my surroundings or whatever. And I go, hey, I can hear everything you're saying. And the guy goes, oh yeah, what am I saying? Like aggressively says that back to me. And I was like, no, I'm not listening to you because I am on stage right now.
Yeah.
I just saying you're loud and I can hear what you're saying. And he goes, tell me what I'm saying.
Oh my God.
And I said, I don't hear the words coming out of your mouth. All I hear is you being a dick. Is what I said. And then the whole audience goes, oh. And I was like,
they were on his side?
Yeah, that's what I was like. I was like, what are you guys doing?
Wow.
What's happening here?
Yeah.
And somebody yells out, you're a dick. And I was like, me? I'm the dick in this situation?
Like,
how am I the dick in this situation? And then another guy yells out, yeah, you are a dick. And I was like,
oh, shit.
Are you
no.
And so I go to that table of ladies that I like kind of built a rapport with at the beginning. And I'm like, come on, ladies, you are on my side. And they go, we think you're a dick too.
Oh no. Oh God.
And one of the things I haven't mentioned in this story so far, because it was not relevant until now in the story, is that table of 4 middle-aged women were all black women. And at this point of the show, a table of like 6 white guys sitting in the back after I go to them and I say, come on, you're on my side. And they're like, we think you're a dick too. This table of 6 white guys goes, don't listen to them. Your grandparents used to own their grandparents.
You're like, you're
and I was like, yeah. I was like, whoa. We are not on the same team, bro. Like, I don't defend me like that. Like, I don't need your help. I'm like, I don't want to be part of this.
Oh my gosh.
And these ladies, understandably, are very upset.
Yes.
And so they are, can we swear on this podcast? I don't know. So they stand up and they're like, come say that to my face, motherfucker. And then the dudes are standing up yelling back, like literally across.
God,
the women are like front right and the guys are like back left. And so they are yelling. They're both standing up, yelling across the comedy club and yelling like very mean things to each other. I mean, look, obviously, like I'm on the ladies' side, they were in the right to be upset. Of course. But it also isn't great for a comedy show.
No,
literally having a race war during the show.
Like no, it's like, I mean, people are yelling racist shit across the place at each other, and I'm like, I don't know how to handle this at all.
So what did happen? What did you do?
So what the comedy club should have done is kick out that table of 6 dudes, right? Those, in no scenario should those people that yelled this wildly offensive thing be allowed to stay and enjoy the comedy show. They're done. Kick them out.
Yeah.
But the club doesn't kick anybody out.
Wow.
They just make everybody sit back down. So like the manager and the servers and all that stuff are like at the thing trying to calm everybody down. They don't kick anybody out and they make everybody sit back down.
Oh wow.
And so now after like multiple minutes of this, yelling and being very upset, everybody finally sits back down and then turns to me with this energy of like, this is your fault.
Did you fix it?
And I was like, so I'm like 15 minutes into my set. So I have like 15 more minutes to do on stage. So, once everybody sits back down, I try to like address the elephant in the room. I'm like, wow, racism, huh? That's crazy. And it still exists so much. And isn't it a problem? And, tried to like joke about that. No laughs at all to that. So then I was like, all right, well, let me, switch gears and I'll just like do like silly dating material, right? And maybe we can like reset the energy that way. Nope, not at all. Nothing. I did 15 more minutes on stage to not a single chuckle. And it got to the point where I was like, look, I don't want this club to not pay me the money that I am owed for this. So I'm giving them no excuse. So I am sitting on this stool and looking at my watch and telling my jokes to complete silence and doing my full time.
Wow.
Like, regardless.
And does your no fear play into that as well? Can you just do that and not feel as terrified as Chris and I would? Or certainly
now that I am many years into comedy, but not at the beginning. No, I mean, the first few years, man, I had a bad show. I'd go cry in my car afterwards.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I'll say at this point, when a show is bad, it's frustrating. When a show is epically bad, it's funny.
Yeah.
Like it is. Yeah. It's not funny to them. It's funny to you. Like when a show is crazy bad, I have such a fun time.
Oh, good.
With it. Because it's like the whole time I'm up there, I'm like, man, I cannot believe what's happening right now. This is nuts.
Yeah, I can see the humor in that.
Oh yeah, one time I had one of the best bad shows I ever did, and it's one of my favorite stories to tell because it's just crazy bad and such a fun story. Is one time, so I have to preface it by saying I did like a month before this show, I did a over 60 active living center community show, like a show for a community of like old people. But they were older, but also still very active people.
Yeah, fun.
And that show was super fun. Like they were just all people like drinking wine, having a good time. They're all retired. They don't have any problems in the world, So, then I get asked to do this retirement home show, and I'm thinking, oh, it's like the same thing.
Oh no.
Of like what I, just did that was fun. Yeah, sure, I'll do that. Mm-hmm. And I get there, and it's not the same thing. It's essentially a nursing home where people cannot care for themselves anymore, or are on the brink of passing away and stuff like that.
They're expecting an Elvis impersonator.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is a different vibe. And the show starts at 5 p.m. I'm supposed to do an hour on stage, just me. And that is, in fact, their dinner hour. So I am performing in the cafeteria during their dinner. And I'm just kind of waiting around. And at some point, I find the lady that I checked in with, and it's like, it's 5:05, and I'm like, hey, what time do you like, are you going to start the show? And she was like, oh, just go start it. And I was like, oh, okay. Like you're not like going to introduce it or anything like that, or any of that stuff. And she was like, no, just go start it. And so I just have to go in. Like, mind you, there's also no stage. I'm just standing I'm standing like in the corner of a cafeteria.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, I walk up and I'm like, hey, who all knew that there was going to be a comedy show? And like, nobody knows that there was going to be a comedy show. And so I'm like, well, I'm your comedian. Here we go. And so I just start, I start telling jokes and doing my silly make-em-ups and stuff. And zero laughs at all.
They got to worry about aspirating and stuff.
Yeah, totally. I mean, most people aren't even paying attention, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But maybe 10 minutes into my set, this woman stands up in the middle of the room and like plugs her ears and shakes her head and like has the most disgusted look on her face. And I'm like,
awesome.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Like, I get it that this is not right. This is not good for anybody.
I totally understand.
I totally get your feelings right now, but they've also paid me to be here for an hour, so I'm sorry. I'm going to keep going. I'm sorry that you hate this, but I'm just going to keep going. And so she like sits back down, and then 5 minutes, I do another 5 minutes to, again, zero laughs. And then that same woman now comes up, because remember, I'm not on a stage. I'm just standing on the floor. Yeah. So she comes up to me with her cloth napkin and then just holds it in front of my face and blocks me. Like, so I can't see the rest of the room. She's just standing in front of me, blocking. Yeah. And I'm like, peeking around the corner of the napkin, being like, I'm still here. I'm still going to tell these jokes. I'm sorry. Like, trying to be real apologetic.
Oh my gosh.
And she keeps like moving the napkin with my face for like 30 seconds. And then I keep going. And then she throws her napkin on the ground and like storms out of the room. Jeez. And I'm like, I don't know what to do here.
Wow.
Wow. And then, 5 minutes go by. So now I'm 20 minutes into my like hour-long set. And the woman who was like in charge, the one that like told me to just go start, comes walking in, and she goes, the cafeteria was kind of an L-shaped. Mm-hmm. And I was at the base of the L instead of like the crook of the L.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially an area of the cafeteria can't really see me that well. The back part of like the top part of the L. And she comes in and she's like, hey, a couple of people have said they can't see you. So can we move the stage? And I was like, oh, you mean like right now? And she was like, yeah. So So then I'm in charge of having to pick up these speakers and
Oh
move the speakers and stuff to a different part of the room. So
That's
again,
awesome.
no stage. So now I'm like taking a 5-minute break to move all of the equipment
Wow.
to a different part of the stage.
Good for
And
comedy.
yeah, and I'm like, well, I'm counting this as part of my hour, you know.
Of course.
Yeah, like you did
And so-
physical labor.
Yeah. So now I'm at a new place, new spot of the thing, and in front of me here is a man sitting in the front row of this new front row, who is not laughing because again, I mean, I literally did an hour on stage and maybe got 2 laughs the whole show.
Wow.
But this guy that's sitting right up at the front is nodding at every punchline. So I'm like, okay, that's me. I'm killing with this guy.
Yes,
right?
we're getting close.
He's
Yeah.
not laughing at all, but he's reacting
Yeah.
at the points where you're supposed to react. You know, every time I hit a punchline, he's kind of like nodding. And so at some point, I'm like, I talk to him. I'm like, you understand what I'm saying, sir? And his response to this guy that I think that I'm doing well with is the very first thing he says is, "You belong in the garbage." And I was like, what? And he was like, "This is awful. You belong in the
Oh,
garbage."
jeez.
Wow.
And I was like, "Oh, I saw you nodding along."
Thought
And
we
he
were
was like,
killing.
"I hate this so much."
Jeez.
And
Wow.
I was
Tough
like,
crowd.
I know.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm picturing this where your mom is.
My
Like
mom's in an assisted living, and I can
Yeah.
imagine if you came in during supper time,
Be
how it would go
hilarious, yeah.
down.
yeah, it wasn't good for anybody. I don't know why they ever thought a comedy show was going to work in this environment.
Yeah. Was that your booking agent that booked you on that one?
No, it was another comedian that asked me if I wanted to do it, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever."
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah. And so then the rest of my set was like doing jokes to silence, but then kept checking in with that guy that said I belong with the
Still
garbage.
suck?
Yeah. And just trying to point out all the ways that he and I were similar. And
Yeah.
it was making him so mad. I was like, "Do you have any kids?" And he was like, "No." And I was like, "Oh, I don't have any kids either. Looks like we got something in common." He's like,
Nice.
being so bad. And so like the whole time, I mean, that show was awful, but man, I loved it. I
Oh,
had so much
good.
fun doing that show because I was like, I can't believe this. I can't believe
No, it's
that
not.
someone wanted a comedy show here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Insane.
And
Yeah.
I do enjoy grumpy old people. I think a grumpy old person is kind of fun. You know,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can play with them a bit.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
they're just, I mean, they've been through some crap. They're just grumpy.
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
hilarious. I can't believe what comedians have to deal with, you know, just to get your points across at times.
Yeah.
Just a joke. Come on.
Yeah.
Quiet would be nice, you know,
Yeah, totally.
positive, feedback.
Yeah. Well, when you get the unexpected comedy show.
Yeah, we like to call that ambush comedy.
Ambush comedy. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Oh,
Can we talk about, I want to talk about Curmudgeon.
oh
I wanna
yeah.
Talk about Norm Macdonald,
And Killer Kate
Yes.
as well.
which we
Sure.
looked up last night, and I was like, I can't do horror. It
Yeah.
is horror-y, right?
It's a horror comedy.
Okay.
So, but
Okay.
there is
you
a
might
lot
be
of
able to. I just the blood and
there's a lot of blood in it.
Okay,
for sure.
Okay.
but you're in it.
You
How
know,
are
it's
you?
it's yeah, so I have a pretty big part in it actually.
Wow.
Mhm.
So Amazon Prime movie for anybody
Yeah.
interested. Certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, nice.
You know, all that
Nice,
sort of
fresh
stuff.
tomatoes, Nice.
Yep.
You're a screenwriter, comedian, actor. You've
Yeah.
doing the
I mean,
gamut.
You end up wearing a lot of hats. Comedy
Yeah.
is my main thing, but
Okay.
I've been a writer and an actor and all that stuff for many years as well.
And now doing
So
puzzle or games.
board games.
Board games.
Board games. I'm a huge board game guy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Let's talk about Killer Kate and then we'll get into Curmudgeon
Yes.
here because I
Okay.
see you do like reviews, it looks like, on your YouTube channel of board games.
I do.
All
Yeah.
right, cool. So Killer Kate, it's a comedy horror flick. When did that
Mhm.
come out?
It came out in 2018.
Mm.
And then Yeah, so it's Amazon Prime film, and it is, it's like a wacky, it's interesting because it's a real mix of like wacky, silly killers and like family drama.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's about a bachelorette party that goes and rents this cabin and a family of people that are trying to murder them. So
Nice.
for a reason that I will not say right now.
Okay.
But
you're not the killer, are you? You said you have.
Well, you can't give that away.
I play one of the people in the family, the bad guy family.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
So
check that out.
You will, and then tell me if I can.
Yeah, I'll watch it and tell you if it's okay.
yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you're in LA. So you go off to do, whatever it's called, where you go auditions. You end up at those a lot, and
yeah.
Yep.
That's one of the least fun parts of the entertainment business.
That's what
job.
we've heard. Yeah. So is it on Zoom now, or are you?
Some of them are. Okay. Some of them are. I mean, when we were deep in the pandemic, all of them were.
Yeah.
And now it's still maybe 50-50.
Which do you prefer? Is it easier to send in?
Boy, it's. I don't know, because I think I do better at them in the room, because you have the ability to like read the energy, and I'm certainly more successful in the auditions when I'm in the room. But there is a nice convenience of just being able to shoot it at your house and send it off. You know,
and you can be like, oh, I didn't like that take.
Yeah.
Again.
And there's like, when, especially with commercial auditions, in a commercial, you'll have one line, and sometimes that line is one word, right?
Right.
You're a guy in a coffee shop that's just like, excuse me, and that's the whole thing. And I'm like, I gotta spend 3 hours out of my day because I gotta drive 45 minutes in traffic and then wait in a waiting room until I go in there and then drive back. And it's like, I got to spend 3 hours just to go, excuse me, like,
right.
It's a lot.
Have you been in commercials and things?
Yeah, I think I've been in like 10 commercials.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So I've been fairly lucky that I get about a commercial a year, something like that.
And then do you get residual from that when it plays?
Yeah, when it plays, and you get residuals based on what it plays on, network or cable or internet or all that sort of. There's a whole formula through the Screen Actors Guild. How you get paid.
Interesting.
God.
Yeah.
All new to us.
Yeah. Yep. All right, let's talk about curmudgeon.
Yeah.
How'd you get into games? You've always.
So I've loved board games for a long time. I mean, I got into Magic the Gathering when I was like 11 years old or something like that.
I didn't know about this until listening to Rick Glassman's podcast.
Oh yeah.
Very into Magic.
Magic.
I work at a psych hospital, so all the kids play Magic. The Gathering. Yes.
So I did it a lot when I was like growing up, and then I got out of games for a while, and then in my 30s I started getting back into them because they're just you get to a point where you're like, I don't want to just go drink at a house party or whatever. It's like I want to have like a way to structured drink with my friends. And board games are really great at facilitating that, I think. And so I got into board games, back into them, I don't know, 6 years ago, something like that. And we hosted game nights a bunch in Los Angeles for friends and things like that. And then actually at the start of the pandemic, when all the tour dates were canceled, I just started making funny review videos about games. And my objective at that point was really just to be like, hey, we're playing a lot of board games right now in my house because we can't go anywhere. And this is a good time to do that. So I'm going to like make some silly videos to help my friends find some good games. Then it's just kind of grown and grown and grown and keeps growing. So now if you can see there, boom, those are all board games.
Looking at that. Yeah. You have a lot.
Yeah. Oh, and that's only one. That's one of 3 shelving units
Nice.
of board
Awesome.
games.
So you actually created Curmudgeon.
So yes, so I created Curmudgeon, and it is published by a company, and it came out right at the end of 2020. Curmudgeon is a party game. It is a game of silly insults, dummy. It's kind of like Mad Libs for making up roast jokes and throwing them down on
That sounds
friends.
fun.
Yeah. If you are somebody who is creative and has a good sense of humor and doesn't take things too seriously, that's who the game's made for.
Okay.
Cool.
A game you've probably heard of, a game like Cards Against Humanity.
Yeah.
Where, Cards Against Humanity to me is a little boring because I don't get to make up any jokes. It's all just stuff written on the card.
Already there.
And
Yeah.
Curmudgeon gives you a little bit more creative license, a little bit more creative agency. So you can kind of, you essentially have key words, but then you can fill in a whole insult around those key words.
Nice.
I feel like we need to get this and play it with all of our comedian friends.
Yeah. That's really fun.
Yeah, I think
comedians tend to like it because it does let them like be funny and stuff.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
we should listen.
So this is my first board game, and I'm currently pitching 2 new board games too to companies.
So where can people buy your board game at?
They can buy it on Amazon. They can also buy it through the publisher, which is 25th Century Games.
Okay.
I believe it's also available through Target online. So
how do you pitch a game? You just have
there are huge conventions for board games, sort of like a Comic-Con, but straight for board games.
Gen Coin? Is that what I wrote?
Gen Con is one of the big ones. And so there's a ton of publishers there, and you can set up meetings and go pitch your game to a bunch of people. Yeah.
Who knew? Awesome. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I know.
Yeah. We're going to have to check out the game.
But real quick, Toasted Marshmallow beer in Victoria,
because
BC.
we are Toasted Marshmallow Adventures podcast. We saw you had a Toasted Marshmallow beer in Victoria, British Columbia.
That is true. Yeah, I'm a big beer snob at this point because I travel so much for comedy that I like going to breweries at cities that I am all across America. So that was actually a brew pub, not a brewery, but a brew pub in Victoria. I stopped in for lunch, and I believe it was a toasted marshmallow porter, and it was really good.
Nice.
Okay.
Fantastic.
We might have to see if we can get a bottle to just display in our studio. Yeah. Just to be on brand.
That's right.
For sure.
Real quick before we get out of here, now you produced a special for Chappelle, is that correct?
No, so I run a comedy show in Los Angeles. It is a secret monthly comedy show in a barbershop hidden behind, or it's in a bar hidden behind an actual barbershop.
The blind barber called
the blind barber. And so we did not produce anything for Chappelle. We essentially, he wanted to come and work on his special on our show.
Nice.
So we've had him on our show, I don't know, 5 or 6 times working on different specials and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
We at the beginning of the Idaho Comedy Fest, we talked to Cypher Sounds, who was
his DJ on the Chappelle show.
Yeah, that's how we met Jen, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So really cool.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I want to talk about Norm Macdonald if we have time.
Okay, yeah.
You opened for him 5 shows?
Yeah, that was one of my favorite experiences in comedy.
How did that occur?
I just, I knew the bookers and they were like, "Hey, do you want to come open for Norm this weekend?" And I was like, "Yeah, obviously."
Yeah. Not a question, right?
Yes, please. And so I got to, I think we did 1 show Thursday, 2 Friday, 2 Saturday. And so just getting to watching him perform was great, but it was the hanging with him in the green room that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people. I'm grateful that, a lot of the famous people that I've worked with have oftentimes been very, very nice people. But, somebody like a Chappelle is very nice, but you don't really get to know him. He's pretty aloof.
Yeah.
He's just kind of doing his own thing. And, it's like, I'll have a a glass of tequila with him and I'll talk to him for like 10 minutes and then I feel like I got to leave him alone, sort of thing. But always very nice. So I have nothing bad to say about him, but it's been rare is the time where you work with somebody famous that is just like willing to hang out with you for hours.
And that was Norm.
Yeah, that was Norm, man.
Wow.
I mean, just after the show on Friday, we were probably in the green room for 2 hours, just like talking and hanging after the show. And, he's telling stories of Saturday Night Live and doing bits and all that sort of stuff. He was a guy that was always joking around all the time.
Yeah.
So you're like, man, I'm here for it. I'll sit here and listen to Norm Mcdonald bits in the green room.
I am not busy.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So
that's so cool.
Yeah, and some points, there was like a time where Jay Moore, if you know that name, he came, so one night he came in and was hanging in the green room, and sometimes you're like, oh, should I leave? And they're like, no, like, this is your green room too, hang out, sort of stuff, yeah. So it's just really fun.
Who are your comedic influences?
Well, my biggest influence, it's interesting because I grew up in a family that was pretty strict and didn't really do a lot of comedy stuff. So I didn't really know that stand-up existed when I was growing up at all. So really, some of the biggest influences just in comedy were The Simpsons and Saturday Night Live, which I watched before I even knew what stand-up was. Then I started getting into stand-up. My college roommate introduced stand-up to me when I was like a freshman in college. And the person he used to introduce me to stand-up was a guy named Mitch Hedberg.
So Hedberg.
Even if you watch me now, you would have no idea that Hedberg is an influence because I'm nothing like him on stage. But he was like my biggest influence with stand-up for sure. He was like the reason I got into stand-up.
Yeah. Because I've watched Mitch Hedberg for years, his style and cadence is not, he's not like a fast like, this many jokes per minute kind of guy. And,
for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely to be your influence. Yeah, watching your comedy, I don't see the relation between the two, but yeah, definitely he's. But great comedian. The first is still alive doing jokes
for sure. And his stand-up album, his first album, Strategic Real Locations, is the first album I'd ever heard. What a good way to be introduced to a comedy album,
Yeah, definitely.
And it blew my mind. I was like, "What? This is like a thing people can do? They can just tell jokes and be funny?
Make money."
Paid?
And it like really opened my eyes to the possibility of that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think some of my first exposure to stand-up comedy is, just watching it is PBS. They used to have a nightly or weekly show called Comedy Tonight. And the host, what's his name, but had a mustache quite like yours. And I remember seeing back, and this is late 80s, probably late 80s. Yeah, seeing Brian Regan with a mullet. On this show Comedy Tonight years ago. So
that's
it was kind of my first, because there wasn't, there was no YouTube, there was no internet. You had to catch it on TV or go to see it live. And that was kind of the only comedy show I could find on TV at the time.
I remember I was so naive about stand-up that now when I look back, I remember as a kid always loving the openings of Saturday Night Live when a stand-up hosted. And I remember being like, man, this is so much funnier than like the normal openings. But I didn't know that it was I was just like, one of the first episodes I started watching it, the class that I started watching it because I wasn't really allowed to watch them, but my mom would fall asleep early and then I could sneak and stay awake and watch it with the volume low. But it was the class that I started watching was like the sort of Will Ferrell, Sherry O'Terry, Anna Gasteyer, Chris Kattan, late 90s.
Yeah.
But I remember an early episode I saw was one of Chris Rock's episode where he came back and hosted. And I still remember his whole opening because that was like really the first stand-up I'd ever seen, but I didn't know that it was stand-up. I was just like, that was so funny. He was just like standing there and being funny, and I loved it.
Yeah, you didn't even know what it was at the time.
Yeah, I didn't know Chris Rock was a stand-up. I was just like, this guy was a guy that used to be on Saturday Night Live, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
It's funny. And now it's what you do for your career.
It's very cool. And coming to the lounge.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
We're going to be there on Friday, correct?
Yes.
That's when we're going to,
we'll
the Friday show. Yes, we're looking forward to that.
We love the lounge. We love Jen. It's an amazing place.
Yeah, I'm excited to come.
Yeah.
I'm excited to check it out.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for doing our podcast
thank you for taking
today.
part of your Saturday to talk to us.
Definitely.
We are appreciative.
We are going to be at your show. We're looking forward to it.
Okay, so you do not want Chris to come on stage and give you a knee bump or
no, thank you, or
anything.
Just big laughs, you know.
Okay,
just
we
big
can
laughs.
do that.
We'll laugh the loudest.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Grant.
Thank you for
thanks for having me. This was fun.
Thank you. All right, I'm signing out.
I'm signing off.
I'm Chris Adams.
I'm Wendy Mosher. # get toasted.
Stay toasted, and thank you,
Grant
Lyon.
We will see you next week at the lounge.